What's up, everybody? We back. R2C2. Another week. What's good, guys?
I have to compliment you. That's what's good. You did a wonderful job without me last week, man.
Had Jason start.
Yeah. I enjoyed your guys' conversation very much. I used it as a means of prep for my first spring training game the other day.
Oh yeah. I seen
Yeah.
that. That
Yeah.
first Yes game. How was it?
You know what? What's really interesting is you can feel the pitch clock in the cadence of the broadcast. And what I mean by that is normally, when you do baseball, you're storytelling, you're discussing, different narratives or different storylines, and you're then kind of leaning forward in the rocking chair for the action, right? Like that's how my mentor taught me baseball play-by-play was it's a rocking chair where you're leaning back and then all of a sudden you lean forward for the action, right? And it's very different than the cadence of, say, an NBA game where you're very much just on the action and the analysis of the play and then finding little pockets to quick squeeze in a storyline. It's not obviously the base of the broadcast. Well, in this case, with baseball, it's always been you're telling stories and all of a sudden, boom, you're just going to do a little action. Over the course of a baseball game, you're actually only doing maybe 10 to 15 minutes of play-by-play normally. But what I realized in that first spring game is it's not that cadence anymore. You're not able to just lean back and let the stories be the foundation of the broadcast and then just hit in with the play-by-play here or there. Now, obviously, I'm feeling that in a spring training game, and you're going to feel it even more in a regular season game because in a regular season game, each pitch is going to mean more, right?
Yep.
Like right now, you're not focusing on every pitch the way you would in a regular season game because it's spring training, especially those late innings. Those late innings can be, boy, they could be
You
tough
don't
to
know
navigate.
who's in the game.
Yeah, they could be so tough. But see, that was the thing that was most interesting to me was I actually felt it, and I was like, whoa, this already feels faster.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, you have to let the action dictate, the broadcast, which is awesome. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yes.
kind of the intent of the rule is to
Yes.
have the action dictate, what you're seeing on the TV and not, have the announcers be doing most of the carrying of the, of the game, which is what happens. You know what I'm saying? So it's been I watched a bit of your game the other day. I watched 3 innings. But what's crazy is while you're watching the game, if you turn and you flip back, like I flipped back to the game and it was the 8th inning. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you really have to be locked in and watching the game because everything is happening so fast and the action is right in your face now. I love it.
I love it too. I've done 2 games thus far this spring, both this past week. I did Monday and I did Saturday. Saturday's game was a 14-10 spring training game with 5 mid-inning pitching changes, which for those of you who follow spring training baseball, you know that normally your pitching changes are coming at the end of an inning.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they don't happen in the middle of an inning unless someone's pitch count gets far beyond what they were intending or someone really runs into trouble. To have 5, and I might even be shorting it 1 or 2, was a lot. And that game, a 14-10 game with that many pitching changes in spring, was sub 3 hours. It was 2 hours and 56 minutes. And Jack Curry and I are sitting there, we're like, this probably would have been a 4-hour game if it wasn't for the pitch clock.
Easy, man. And what's crazy is that even last night's game was a little slow.
Yeah, it was a bad game. It was a horrible baseball game.
It was moving a little slow, but it was still under 3 hours.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
It's so true. It was 2:42. It was an awful game, boring as all could be, and it was still 2:42.
It was still so think about that on a Tuesday night in the Bronx now during the spring or the fall. You can now bring your kid to the game because the game starts at 6:30. It's over by 9:15, 9:30 on a school night. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like families will be back at the ballpark now because of the pitch clock and, bumping up the games a half an hour. And with the pitch clock, you'll get more kids and families back at the park earlier in the season.
I absolutely think you should see. I think it becomes a more viable option. As a parent now, I appreciate that so much more because just if you say now my daughter's not old enough where she could sit still for anywhere near that amount of time, but when you say, hey, we're going to go do an activity and it's going to take 2 to 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes versus, well, it's going to take probably at least 3 hours and 10 minutes. It could take 340, you know. It's like, no.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. I even feel it, just for myself, as someone who works games, how much more relief I have felt mentally because my schedule has just been absolutely bonkers lately.
Mm-hmm.
And the relief I felt of knowing, oh, okay, at least before I have to wake up at 4 a.m. the next day to go to Houston, I know I'm not going to be on the air with the baseball game till 10:30 at night because it's a 6:30 game, and I know it's going to be quicker now. And it was 2:42. And so I really feel like we're all going to benefit from it.
Everybody's going to benefit from it, man. I'm telling you. By July, everybody's going to love this shit. I'm telling you.
I couldn't agree more. And I also like seeing more singles like we've seen.
Absolutely.
That's been encouraging.
Man, I was in camp last week with the Yankees, and Hicksy hit a ball. It was a home opener. Hicksy hit a ball first at bat, and I was like, damn, like in my head, I'm like, damn, double play. But not knowing that the shift is, illegal now, it slipped my mind. Ball got through. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these balls that you're used to seeing, on the ground in the infield, they're gonna be hits now. Balls up the middle, balls in the holes. Like it's gonna change the game a lot, man. And I'm here for it. It's a game that we watched as kids. You know what I'm saying? And I think we're getting back to that. I'm excited for it.
Last year it was really interesting to me. I was noticing myself and what I would feel broadcasting a game when both starters were in and working quickly and rolling. And I would say to myself, this is so fun. There's a rhythm to it. There's a cadence. There's a bounce. It just feels good. And then the pens would come in, and things would slow down so much. And I almost inevitably, every single game, those late innings, I would be like, it's tough. Like it's tough getting through these late innings. And the relievers do tend to just work far more slowly than the starters. Obviously, there are some starters that work slowly as well, but the relievers do seem to work more slowly. And so I'm also happy that even though I'm sure the game's always going to slow down some naturally when, you get into a bullpen, I'm glad that they're going to have to speed up because those late innings were tough to digest.
Yeah, it got real bad, man. And especially, depending on who the manager was, if a guy felt like this was their, late inning situation, it could slow down in the fifth inning. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this is the spot where you think that you need to bring your guy in, like, then the game is just going to take forever from there. So, yeah, I love that we have something in place that can, it's going to speed these guys up for sure.
And one thing I wanted to ask you about, you and Jason spoke last week for a while about Kevin Gausman, Luis Garcia as well. They have the toe tap delivery, and their delivery, it's seen as a false start, considered a balk.
It's a balk.
Yeah. So they can't do it anymore, but pitchers like Nestor, Johnny Cueto, they can utilize their funky deliveries because according to MLB, once they lift their front leg to begin their delivery, they can funk up the rest of the act however they want.
Yeah.
So, see, what's your kind of feeling and interpretation of the differences there and how it might affect these pitchers?
No, I mean, I got a chance to talk to Gausman after we did the pod.
Oh, okay, great.
I spoke to him actually the next morning. I was in Blue Jays camp, and he just said, he didn't even know that he was doing the toe tap so much. You know what I'm saying? He said it is just something that became kind of like a habit. You don't know that you're doing it, and he was working to, try to get his delivery, on the legal side. So he wasn't that upset about it or freaked out about it. He was just glad that, they was giving him the time to work through it, to be honest. And he like he told me, he was like, man, I didn't even realize I was doing that until, these rules came out. So he's working through that. I seen Luis Garcia change his delivery up big time. This is something that we talked about at MLB midway through last year. If they were going to try to change these deliveries up, I thought it would be hard to try to, change Luis Garcia's delivery at the All-Star break last year, or even Gausman or some of these guys. But I think giving them the time for spring training, giving them the leeway, to be able to figure their thing out. I think it's gonna help. And I love the fact that, we're adhering to the rule now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the rule. You know what I'm saying? And those deliveries were deceptive and trying to deceive the hitter. So these guys will work through and figure out, what will, keep them on the legal side and not a balk every time. And it didn't seem like they had a problem with it at all to me.
I also have seen multiple balk calls when pitchers have not come to a full set.
Yes.
And that is along the same lines, right? Trying to deceive the runners. And it had gotten a little bit hairy. You had quite a few pitchers last year who, when they were in the stretch, never really were coming to a true stop and a true set.
Yeah. And I mean, and it was the umpire's discretion. If he does that every time, then it's not a balk. Well, yeah, it's a fucking balk. I don't give a fuck how many times he does it in a row. It's a balk every time.
Yeah. See, what about, I don't know if I've asked you this, but what is your role right now in the commissioner's office when it comes to these new rules and your communication between the commissioner's office and the players?
Honestly, just the communication. I got a call from Derek Shelton the other day about a pitch clock, situation. And, we're headed down there this week to go talk to the Pirates. You know what I'm saying? So, we're just trying to work through this thing. Everything's fluid, and we're just trying to figure out what's going to be best for everybody, to be honest. And everybody's trying to work through the rules and the times. And, if the pitcher has to be involved in the play, when does the clock start? You know what I'm saying? To give him enough time to get back to the mound. I was watching Domingo last night. I don't know if you noticed this, but when he needed extra time, he threw that fucking stupid fucking umpires. He threw that ball right down the middle. The guy called it a ball, and he ended up walking the guy, right?
Yes.
But after
it was O'Neal Cruz. Yeah.
So after he walked O'Neal Cruz, he turned around before Trevino threw him the ball back. He walked back behind the mound, cleaned his cleats off, took a deep breath, gathered himself, and then called for the ball. So then his time didn't start until he got the ball. So he got a chance to take a deep breath, relax, do everything he needed to do, and then he asked for the ball back. I don't know if you noticed that last night, but a couple of times he did that. And that's what you're going to have to do. It's not call for the ball back. Let the catcher hold it. Go walk back behind and do whatever you need to do, and then get the ball and the clock will start.
Now, if a pitcher was doing that over and over and over again, then the umpire could do something about it,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. What's interesting to me is, baseball's a game with so many subtle nuances that you pick up on and you strategize about, and now there are these 3 new layers that are going to unravel naturally as we watch games, because obviously some of us can surmise or forecast ways in which these rules could be tweaked, manipulated, circumvented, whatever. But then there's other things that you're only going to really notice or feel once you actually see it playing out. And I think that's going to be really interesting. See, there's one right there that maybe we wouldn't have thought about, but you see it happening in games like, oh, okay, that's one way where you can kind of skirt around it a little bit.
And for fans, like for me being a former player, I want the clock on the screen the whole time.
Yeah.
So I can see how a guy's reacting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see if you can tell if the clock's bothering a guy, if he's working within his rhythm. So that's why I want I was saying last night, I would like for Yes to have the clock up there the whole time, just so you can see a guy, how he's working through it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And you can tell if it's bothering him, if he's working too fast or if he needs time or any of those things, if you're just watching the game. Or I can anyway, by watching the game.
I agree with you. I want the clock up there all the time as well. I think we do at Yes want that as well, but right now, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a technical issue with the feeds or what. For whatever reason, we get it at 7 seconds, not more than that. So you'll see it pop up on the score bug when it's at 7 seconds. I do think once the season starts, it's advantageous to always have it up there, just like, a shot clock. But see, it's funny. because C and I were like doing our own broadcast last night. C texts me. He goes, "Where's the pitch clock? I want it." So then I'm on the air and I go, "For those of you wondering where the pitch clock is, it's up. It will appear on the score bug once it hits 7 seconds."
I'm like, "No, I want it up there all the time."
Yeah, exactly. We just had a back and forth conversation. You texting and me using the microphone. It was hilarious. And then the other thing I brought up that you had texted me, C, is the comparisons to Anthony Volpe. I don't know if you were listening still when I brought that up. That might have been when you went away.
I missed that.
But I just said I was talking about, I forget what made me initially bring it up, but I referenced you saying, "Hey, CC was just telling me, stop putting so much pressure on this kid. The comparisons need to stop." And I said, "Hey, I didn't compare him to Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly. Willie Randolph did." But it's interesting, see, because look, in spring, we're all clamoring for stories to write, and you don't really have the games to go off of the same exact way, right? You're getting to know people. You're making, you're building off of maybe less information than you are during the regular season. But what has been interesting is how every single person who talks about Anthony Volpe, I made this comparison last night. It's like when someone asks you to write their college recommendation and you've been dying to glow about this person. And you're so thrilled that you get to tell someone who doesn't know them how great they are. That's what it's like hearing people talk about Anthony Volpe, whether it's, Al Leiter, who saw him as a kid playing with Jack, or it's, Damon Oppenheimer, or it's Kevin Reese, or it's Brian Cashman, or it's, his teammates from college, whoever it is, even his teammates now, the way they talk about him, it just feels like that makeup factor that we've heard about forever is a very obvious tool in the bag of Anthony Volpe that sort of catches everybody's attention.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, for me, like, it just puts so much pressure on the kid when you start comparing them to Derek and Dom. Like, we wasn't comparing Aaron Judge to none of these guys. You know what I'm saying? He ends up turning into the captain. So, like, when you put these expectations on these kids like this, like, what if he just turns out to be a really good shortstop, couple All-Star games? Like, can we be okay with that? Like, does he need to be the next captain for everybody to be satisfied? Like, can he just be our shortstop and, like, play and make some All-Star games and like, be a player first before we start, like, comparing him to these damn near Hall of Fame players? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Judge didn't come up with none of that expectation. He turned into what he turned into, but, like, nobody expected him to be the captain. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, it just sucks when, like, I remember watching Jason Hayward's first game. He had a home run his first at bat. They start comparing him to Hank Aaron. Like, come on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, where do you go? Like, when you start comparing Volpe to Derek Jeter, where does he go? Where can you go? Nowhere but fucking to the bottom of the earth from there. Like, there's nowhere to go, guys. Like, it just sucks.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, because what you're saying is this kid, forget whether or not he can handle the comp or not, because he seems to be the kind of kid who absolutely can handle this kind of stuff.
And our mutual friend, Matt Neimer, he's told me a bunch of times that he can handle the comp. It's no problem. I just don't like it because there's nowhere for the kid to go. Yeah.
Well, right. Because then you're framing his success through, is he as good as these Hall of Famers?
Come on,
rather than is he just a really good major league player? Yeah, you're right. This reminds me of entrepreneurs, because they'll say the biggest issues they always have is falling short of their own projections. Like when it comes to, you're building a business and then you're fundraising and it's, well, why didn't you hit these projections? It's like, you were the person who made those projections, right? And it kind of, in this case, it's like, but there may not be an actual issue with the business itself. And in this case, it's similar in that Anthony Volpe could be a 290 hitter with a 360 on-base percentage who steals 30 bags a year and hits 15 home runs and plays a really good shortstop, and that'd be a really good major leaguer.
We need that.
Yes.
Like that would put us over the top, guys. You know what I'm saying?
I kind of want them to just start him from opening day. See,
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't know. Because of the options and because he just hasn't played enough AAA.
I think just because of the options, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason. Like, I just think because of the options. Like, I haven't seen Peraza play at all this spring. But I mean, like you, like I think they should just let him play. Like he obviously can handle it. Like he's not overmatched at nowhere, at shortstop, in the plate, in the clubhouse, around the team. Like he's not overmatched. So let him play.
That's how I feel. Now,
if we watched him last night and he didn't look good, he was overmatched, and like you can tell he's a big league player by watching last night.
Yeah. I agree. Everything about him looks like a big league player. It just does. And there's also a part of me that would like them to do that because it would feel like a departure from the way they've been operating. And to me, that would spark some energy and excitement about the season. Now, I'm also going to be excited if it's Peraza because he seems to be...
He's young too.
Yeah. And he seems to be a wizard defensively. I'd love to see them both in there somehow, but I would really I would love to see Volpe in there. Maybe it doesn't make total sense when he's only played 20 games at AAA and you have other options.
Shit don't matter.
But
Mike Harris came up last year after, you know what I'm saying?
And that's what I think about seeing that changed Atlanta's season. Yeah. Like I would love to just see him there. He seems ready to me. I'm in agreement. You know, one more Yankee thing. See, Aaron Judge playing some left field. One thing that I think is maybe underrated about Judge is his willingness to move around. You know, last year him playing center field saved the season for a while. And his willingness to play left field now, it'd be very easy for Aaron Judge to be like, hold on a second. I am a gold glove capable right fielder. He should have had a gold glove by now.
He don't have a gold glove?
No.
Damn.
Yeah, he should have a couple by now. He doesn't have one. When you consider that there was a year where Clint Frazier got nominated and Aaron Judge did not.
Clint Frazier got nominated for a gold glove?
In
Get the fuck out. He don't play the whole season. How the fuck he get nominated for a gold glove?
In the pandemic year, he got nominated for a gold glove.
That's fucking hilarious.
That is hilarious. And Aaron Judge has never gotten nominated for a gold glove. So, like, you know that there's something left to be desired in that process. But anyway, see, you know what I'm saying? He could easily be like, I hit 62 home runs. This is my position. I don't want to. But he is a team guy who's going to take it on.
That's not him, man. That's like, it doesn't even surprise me that he's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just going to do whatever he needs to do to help the team win. And no matter what kind of season he had or, you know, gold glove capable right fielder, it doesn't matter. If they need him to play fucking third base, he'll try to play third base. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just who he is, and that's why he's the captain.
How was the vibe down there in Tampa? Did you have a good time?
I did, man. I play a lot of golf. So I had a great time. It was awesome. Spring training for me, man, like, I'm not a coach, guys. Like, I'm not cut out to be a coach.
No.
A lot of standing around. I love getting to spend time with Gator, but it's just a lot of standing around, bro, and like kind of just hanging out. So yeah, no coaching, no time. We talked about this all the time, but no coaching, no time soon in my future.
Did you provide any wisdom while you were down there?
TV shows, yeah. I hooked up some guys with some shows and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, letting guys know.
I'm thinking about pitching, and the wisdom you're providing is I let them know what TV shows to watch.
Let them know what to watch, guys.
That's awesome.
Shit.
Hey, we got to get C down in camp. Oh, you having a problem with your cutter? No, I just need a really good show to watch.
Need some recommendations for TV. It was good. It was good. Seeing Sevy, seeing Rondon down there, getting to see Cole. He looks really relaxed, and it seemed like they're the staff, the pitching staff seems to be really close. The starter,
good.
Nestor and Sevy and Cole and Rondon. I think it's a good group of guys. I mean, feels relaxed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel uptight. Feels like these guys know what they need to do to get over the hump, and the hump is Houston. I got a chance to see one of my good friends, a kid from my hometown, Willie Calhoun, is in camp with the Yankees, so I got a chance to hang with him. hung out with Hicksy, played golf with Swish. So I played golf with Rory Mcilroy, guys. Oh, it was a good week. It was a good week.
That is amazing. What was it like? First of all, one thing on Willie Calhoun. Yesterday, Jack asked me, he's like, you know where Willie Calhoun's from? And I was like, I don't. He's like, well, your podcast partner,
you should know
Vallejo.
that,
and I was like, wow, that's how we got into your text to me. Now I'm remembering.
I played Legion ball with his uncle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Dion Calhoun.
Hey, he's having a great spring.
That little motherfucker can hit, bro. He can he can swing it, guys. Like he's always been able to hit.
He's having a spring. Hit, so what was it like playing with Rory?
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
He was so cool and like just makes you feel relaxed and everything. Everybody kept asking me, was I nervous? But like, like I don't put a lot of stock into my golf game. You know what I'm saying? So like if I hit a bad shot, I really don't give a fuck. Like I don't get that mad. So like I wasn't nervous at all. Like I was going out there this ain't my sport. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm coming out here to have fun. So it was cool. So you had to pick up at bogey. So you play the hole, and then if you get the bogey, then you pick your ball up. So you're not wasting time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I finished 11 out of 18 holes, guys.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's so I finished good,
11,
man.
Yeah, I finished 11 out of the 18.
So you were 11 of 18 holes, you were either birdie, par, or bogey.
A bogey, yeah.
That's good, man.
That's good for me.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I'm just imagining pick up at bogey. Okay, so I am just going to be picking up the entire round. That's what I'm doing. Okay. I actually don't mind that. Like there are times when I'm on a hole and it's gone sideways, I'm just like, let me spare myself.
Me and you are out there with the group chat and I fucking hook some shit and then hit the next shot bad, I'm done for that. I'm picking up my phone. I'll be in the next tee box.
Yes, I'm the same way. No, you could play it out. No, I don't want to play it out.
I don't want to play it out.
I'm done playing it out.
Plus, these people behind us looking at us like, fuck that. I don't want to keep hitting shots from the same spot.
No, right, exactly. I don't want them to see me hit my third shot into the woods on this hole. I'm with you. I am totally with you. See, I wanted to bring up some things that happened in NFL free agency when it came to quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I am so confused at the Derek Carr contract with the Saints. And here's why I'm confused. He gets a 4-year deal worth up to $150 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's $100 million in guarantees.
60 signing.
60 at signing. In his career, he's 63-79 as a starter. Last year, statistically, was his worst season since his rookie year. The Raiders went 6-9 with him. The Raiders, was there a different dynamic that led to that divorce beyond his not playing well? Because here's the thing that's confusing to me. See, I mean, I know things felt a little weird in there between him and the Raiders, but franchises are desperate for quarterbacks, as we can see from that contract with the Saints, right? But the Raiders are desperate for a quarterback too. The Raiders don't have some obvious answer. So what are the Saints seeing that the Raiders are giving up on, that the Saints are willing to give that kind of money for a guy that a franchise that needs a quarterback wants nothing to do with anymore?
Yeah, this is gonna sound bad, but they're looking at his numbers, like his career numbers, not his wins, like how many yards he's thrown for a season, all his touchdowns and all these different things, and all the bad numbers they blame on the Raiders, right? Like him being 69 and 63, they blame it out on the Raiders defense. You know what I'm saying? Like none of that shit is his fault. Like any of the interceptions, that's the Raiders, that they have bad receivers. He just throw, you know what I mean? Like they give him the benefit of the doubt more than anybody I've ever seen in my life at a quarterback. And for me, like being a Raider fan, I watch the games. Like his numbers, they're all like garbage minute. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like, it's like when David Lee was with the Knicks and he was a double-double. You know, like somebody got to score the points and get the rebounds, guys. Like he's playing quarterback in the NFL. He's gonna throw some touchdowns. Like the score may be 35-7, and those touchdowns count when you know what I'm saying? Like so it's like his numbers are all just garbage time numbers to me, because none of them have ever meant anything, guys. So that's why, as a Raider fan or the Raiders organization, it's easy for us or them to give up on him, because we've seen it for 10 years, bro. We watched it. So I have no problem with them moving on, trying to get to Aaron Rodgers, maybe getting to Anthony Richardson, moving up, trading. I saw he had a great combine, a quarterback from Florida. But any option is better than the Derek Carr option that we had for the last 9 years.
So nothing about watching him. You didn't ever feel yourself saying, no, this guy's a really good quarterback.
You know me, bro. No.
All right.
No.
Yeah.
Not at any point. I mean, maybe that year that he broke his back, that year that he had when he broke his back, but that season, he was really good that year. Then he broke his back, and then after that, it's been all this.
It's amazing to me that he got this kind of deal. I thought he'd get someone kind of taking a flyer on him where he's paid significantly below market, still paid a lot because he's a quarterback in the NFL. But instead, he gets $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah, but you got to think, though, because he's a proven NFL quarterback. You know what I'm saying? A lot of teams need quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
A lot of teams think that they're a quarterback away from being in the playoffs. And the NFC South is not very good.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So if you get a good enough quarterback, you feel like you can win that division easily.
Well, he's probably the best quarterback in that division now.
Right now, he is.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because in sports, I often think the thing that hamstrings a franchise most is the player who you have to pay. They're good. They're just good enough to break your heart. You have to pay a certain amount, but you know they're never going to get you over the top.
Can I tell you, you about to go through it.
Yeah?
Daniel Jones.
Oh.
You're about to go through it, cuz.
My guy Daniel, he might be good enough. He might be good enough, see.
We're about to find out. We're about to find out.
Hey, you started to come around on my guy Daniel this year.
Well, you got to pay him because he's starting to come around. Yeah. So you're about to find out right now.
But you are right. Like, look, we even saw it with the Ravens after they won the Super Bowl with Flacco, right? Like, and we see it in the NBA all the time, where you pay a guy max money and he's good, but he's not a max player. And those kind of players end up hamstringing your cap. And, it's not, it doesn't have to be something as overtly bad as a Ben Simmons contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be a contract for a guy who's a good NBA starter, but you don't feel great about paying him $35 million a year because now it takes away from everywhere else. And I even think there are players like Karl Anthony Towns who's making the max and obviously has that kind of talent, but is him on a max contract winning you a championship, right? And there's those kind of, but that's just kind of like what the market dictates, right? Like he's very good, but could he be at $30 million a year instead of 45, 50, right? Same kind of thing I think with Derek Carr. Like, okay, like you'd like to have him, but wouldn't you feel a lot better about what you could build around him if you could get him for 20 than $150 million over 4 years?
Because you need pieces to win with him.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
He's not going to win you a championship alone.
Exactly. That's my point. Whereas, like, okay, if you have KD and Devin Booker, you're like, all right, we'll figure out what we can put around.
I don't give a damn who else is like. Just give me the ball past half court.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure out the rest. We'll figure it out. The other one, and I think this is a really great story, and it's Geno Smith. For him to get a 3-year deal worth up to $105 million, you're coming off a Pro Bowl, won Comeback Player of the Year, outperformed Russell Wilson, led the Seahawks to the playoffs, played well in the playoff game, even though they lost. He also, his first 10 seasons, he earned $17.5 million total in his first 10 seasons, which obviously in life is very nice. In the NFL, that's a meager amount for a quarterback over 10 seasons. So he is going to get more than that, more than double that in his first year of this new contract. This is a guy who wasn't a starter for 6 years, see? It's such an amazing story. It just makes you feel great.
It's pretty cool. And then like the clip of him going, like that viral clip after the very first game.
Yeah.
They wrote me off, but I didn't write back. You know what I'm saying? And then to be able to sign a $103 million contract at the end of that year is amazing, man. It's crazy to be able to to watch his journey. You know what I mean? Like, he was highly touted coming out of West Virginia, coming here to New York. It's a tough market. You know what I'm saying? Going through all the stuff he went through in the locker room. And then to be able to find his way as a backup, you know what I'm saying? And you know, find his way out in Seattle and, you know, kept his head up and, you know, nose clean and knew that he was going to be the guy once. I had a dinner with DK in the offseason. DK Metcalf. Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, now that Russ gone, who's going to be your quarterback? And he was like, Geno. And I was like, you sure? He was like, I'm telling you, Geno. And all the guys believed in him. You know what I'm saying? So it's cool to be able to see him, you know, come, you know, through all of that stuff he did in the last 10 years to be able to get a $100 million contract is amazing.
I also think it's a good reminder of the stories behind each one of these guys. And Jack and I have alluded to it a little bit during spring training. You know, you see someone like Willie Calhoun trying to make a major league roster, right? Whoever it might be. You know, all of these guys who you're watching who you don't know that much about, it's someone's husband, father, provider, whatever, trying to make a living, trying to rejuvenate a dream, trying to get back something they had. If we really, and you feel it when you watch a doc series like Full Swing, right? And just the individual stories of each of these golfers. Think about the individual stories of some of these guys and their journeys, and it's incredible. And Geno Smith is one of those stories where it is incredible he's gotten back to this point, and I think we all just feel great. I saw him get that contract, and I was like, that is awesome. Good for him, man. Good for him.
I think everybody felt good about him getting paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty cool.
Really cool. See, want to hit a couple NBA notes. I had that Knicks Celtics game the other night, called it with JJ and RJ and Katie George, double overtime game at TD Garden. But I had 3 Celtics games last week. And they were all really good. Celtics, Cavs.
They lost all 3 of those too.
They beat the Cavs.
Oh, they beat the Cavs.
They beat the Cavs. Yeah,
they did. They lost. They just lost to the Cavs.
They just lost to the Cavs. Yeah, in Cleveland. They beat them in Boston. Nets, Cavs, where the Nets overcame a 28-point deficit. Mikal Bridges had another huge game, and then Nets, Celtics, where they overcame the 28-point deficit, and then Knicks, Celtics, where double overtime, playoff atmosphere. TD Garden is probably my favorite arena to call games in the NBA. It's definitely top 2 or 3 if it's not number 1, but just because the crowds are so consistently awesome, so engaged, always loud, doesn't matter who the opponent is. That night it was electric. See, I don't know if you got to see any of that game Sunday night, but oh my goodness, it was an incredible basketball game. And it gives you a little window into what the product is when there's a regular season game with stakes and everybody's going after it. I mean, Emmanuel quickly playing 55 minutes, career-high 38 points. It was awesome. And this Knicks team, it's a very likable group. They play their asses off. And they're on this winning streak now. They're surging up the Eastern Conference standings. This city is going to be alive come playoff time with what this team has shown during the regular season. Now, they may end up getting their expectations set too high and start having dreams about knocking off of Milwaukee, and this team is not in a place where I think that's fair. But can this team get to a second round now? Yeah, they could. They could.
You think they could beat Cleveland if it stays like this?
I think they could. I don't know that they will, but I think they could. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't think there's anything delusional about saying, hey, this is a Knicks team that we could see in the second round. And then if they're there, could they play a really tough series? Like, it's always hard for me to envision a team without, the obvious star power that those top 3 teams have in the East beating one of them, beating Milwaukee, Philly, or Boston. But it wouldn't totally shock me if they gave a Philly a really hard series.
I was about to say, out of those 3, I think Philly is the one that can be beat.
Yeah.
In the East, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the other thing is because, Jalen Brunson may not have been the, white whale that the Knicks have been clamoring for in free agency forever. He wasn't the name. He didn't have the start, but he has played like it. Yeah, exactly.
I guess he was. He wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, and even like going back into last offseason, even me and you thought they could have made some changes. They built up the culture. We thought, They could have let Randall walk and different things, and
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't. They kept him, but they knew that they needed a point guard because he was playing point forward all last year. So to get Jalen Brunson, I think he's been the white whale that the Knicks didn't know they needed.
Remember when people were talking about, oh my gosh, you paid $104 million for Jalen Brunson, and now that deal is an unbelievable bargain.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson, what is the number? I think it's calendar year. It's either calendar year or it's since early December, has averaged 28 points on like 50% from the floor and 40% from three. I mean, JJ Redick said this the other day on his pod, and then he said it on our broadcast. Said the only guard in the NBA who's played better than Jalen Brunson in 2023 is Damian Lillard. That is the only guard. And it's true. So it's like you almost just have to reframe your mind, because if someone was just, to your point before about Volpe and expectations, if somebody was just, if Kyrie Irving was putting up the numbers that Jalen Brunson's putting up, we're just saying like, oh my gosh, this is a star playing like a star. He's capable of anything with this team. That's the kind of production that Jalen Brunson's had over an extended period of time. Now, plus, great culture fit, great leader. And what you said before is so key, see. He puts Randall in spots to just score. And then Julius Randle's so much better, because where he got into trouble was those, brutal isolation possessions where he's trying to navigate and he coughs it up, he dribbles the air out of the ball, he turns it over. Well, he doesn't have to do that anymore because of Jalen Brunson.
That was all last year, because he came off the good 2020, and then it was all last year where he was just trying to create. And, he would come down and try to isolate. And like you said, it'd be a turnover, and then he's walking back, and then it's just like, it was just the atmosphere and the culture of last year was not good.
No, it's amazing what they've built. It's going to be really fun watching them in the playoffs and the energy they have, the excitement around it. See, one other hoops thing wanted to give you a chance to talk about was the situation with Ja Morant, which is evolving as we speak. We know he's away from the team for the time being. He put out a statement saying he's going to seek help. What are your thoughts and your perspective on what you're seeing Ja deal with, go through?
And just praying for the young man. It's it's tough when, going through these situations like this. And, he's been making a few mistakes and, had some run-ins and, had Shannon Sharp on his behind. And, this time he's, made a huge mistake having a gun on his Instagram Live and, maybe trying to deal with his stress in ways that, isn't healthy, for anybody. So, I went through the same things when I was young, his age, being young, for me, it was coming out of the hood and not having any money and first time getting paid and, everybody's coming out the woodworks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got friends that you didn't know that, cousins that you didn't know you had, all these different people, these hanger-oners just want to be around. Same situation. And, I think it was April of my second season after my rookie year, I ended up in a situation where I got robbed, and it changed my life. Like I was same thing. I was young. I was carrying guns all the time. At that particular time, I didn't have a gun on me. I ended up getting robbed. And that night, bro, like my life changed. Like that was the night I called Amber. I asked her to move out from San Diego to Cleveland with me, and everything changed. So, for me, watching Ja go through this, man, he's young. He's not so young, but he's young, and he can change his ways. It's crazy to me to watch all these people on TV and, whether it's ESPN or whatever, just try to kill this guy about him making a mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like we all make mistakes. We're all young. He has plenty of time to right this ship, and, I hope he gets the help and seeks the help that he needs. And he's a tremendous basketball talent. We all know that. He's just got to get his things straight off the court. And, it's plenty of time for him to do that. We've all been through it, whether it's myself, Steven Jackson, AI, whoever else. You know what I'm saying? Like we all go through the shit, especially, growing up the way we did. So, he'll be fine is what I think.
Yeah, I thought Jalen Rose, I really liked his perspective on it when he talked about it on Countdown the other day. and he was talking about situations when he was a young player. See, you just talked about people coming out of the woodwork once you get your contract, you start making money. How hard is it to, I don't know if it's cut people off or box them out? How difficult is that process?
No, that's extremely hard to be able to pick your circle, especially when you're that young, because you think everybody has good intentions. You know what I mean? You think everybody love you. But you got to go through it the hard way, man. Like all these situations with the laser beam and all of that shit that he's got going on.
No, serious stuff.
Yeah, all these people around him are not the right people. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get around the right people, they're gonna do stuff that's gonna elevate you, not do stuff that's gonna jeopardize your career or do stuff that's gonna bring attention to you in a negative light. So you just gotta find your people. For me, I went from having a group of 10 to 12 guys that I would go to Vegas and be out in Cleveland and do all these things with, to me, Joe Morant. You know what I'm saying? And that's who I roll with now. You see me go to Vegas, you see me go to a fight, you see me go to anywhere, anytime, anything, it's me, Joe Morant. And it's been like that for the last 20 years. And it happened that night that I got robbed.
Wow. Was it actual conversations in the aftermath of that, or was it just you kind of just not reaching out anymore and just kind of silently breaking away?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, when you grow up with people, you have to have some kind of conversation. Didn't go well, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. I mean, my dad was still alive at that point in my life, and we had a lot of long conversations about, who I need to have around, who I don't need to have around. And I took his advice to heart. I didn't take it to heart right then, but when he passed away a couple of years later, I got all of the wrong people from around me, and I ended up having a 19-year career. But it wouldn't have been that if I would have stayed on the same track that I was on when I was 19, 20, 21 years old.
Yeah. Well, that is amazing perspective, and I definitely hope that Ja is able to use this as a pivot point in his life to build the amazing career in life that is there for him to have. Because you're right, C, he's an incredible talent, and his teammates glow about him as well. His coaches glow about him as well. So hopefully what he's dealing with now and the crowd he's dealing with can morph a little bit in the aftermath of this as he takes some time to evaluate where he's at and how to deal with his current place in life.
But if you think about like every athlete that's like a star like this that have come from the hood, we've all dealt with something like this. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was Melo or AI or whoever else, like street shit it just follows you when you're young. Like you just don't know any other way. You know what I'm saying? Like you've been in the streets so long, and not even in the streets, that's just who you were around. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the people you grew up with, these are the people you were around, and you don't know how to pivot.
Well, hopefully this period of time he does. We'll see when he's back on a basketball court. Obviously, that feels secondary now to him just getting his life back. And this being addressed before something serious happened, because you've had a couple incidents now that feel like they were very dangerous.
And that's where I was at when I don't know what he's up to, but that's when I checked myself in the rehab. I checked myself in before it was mandated, before I did something or hurt somebody, did something while I was drunk that, I was spiraling out of control. And everybody was like, well, what was your rock bottom? It was just me realizing that I couldn't stop. You know what I mean? Like nothing catastrophic happened. There wasn't anything that I couldn't, fix. And I was just lucky enough to be able to be in that position and not be in a position where I had really broken some things and fucked some things up before I decided to get help.
Yeah. Do you remember the moment you realized that, C, where you were like, wow, I don't have control, and that being your rock bottom?
It was way before I checked into rehab. I knew probably 10 years before I checked into rehab that I needed to go to rehab, that this was going to eventually be a problem.
Yeah. And then that season with the Yankees was finally where you're like, okay,
in 15, it was just, it was I had the picture out smoking weed on the balcony in Atlanta. Then I got into the big thing out in Toronto. It was all starting to fucking bubble to the surface.
Yeah. And you're like, before something really bad happens,
I need to go get help.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's where Ja is at. You know what I'm saying?
Amen. I hope so, See, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Really great perspective there, man. And we have some great guests coming up. A lot of really good baseball guests coming up as we dive deeper into spring, get ready for opening day. I have Harrison Bader on soon, Carlos Rodon, Christian Yelich, just to name a few, but a lot of interesting dudes coming up. You guys know the deal. New episodes every Thursday, bonus episodes as well. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. You can watch our episodes in full every week as well. And, of course, that is free. All of this is free. See? We'll do it again next week, man.
Peace.